Welcome everyone to this evening's Code with Jason Meetup session. This evening, we're doing another code review session. We've done a couple of these in the past. And tonight, we're doing one for my friend Helmut Kobler. It's a really interesting app, I think. It's related to model trains. Helmut, I watched your video on YouTube that kind of explained it. I'm surprised by like the intricacies and details and how realistic model train enthusiasts apparently do everything. I had no idea. Anyway, I'll turn it over to you now if you want to give us some context and about the app before we dive into the code.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Let's see. I take it most people are not model railroaders, but they're aware of it. And really, it's not about just watching a train go around, an oval track. Most railroaders get into it because they like modeling the kind of realistic operations of a railroad on their layout. So it's really about, a typical layout has multiple industries like a bakery or a coal, pit or a brewery or something like that. And what people need is a way to generate traffic, like what are called switch lists. Lists of what cars have to go to what industries, what cars get picked up from what industries and brought back to the yard. And in the past, there are kind of two options for doing that. There's a program, I think it's called JRMI, which is really feature-filled, but really complicated. And it's like a Java app and you have to run it on your computer. And it's kind of there's a big barrier to getting into that for most users. And then on the other side, people use just literally cards. So they have, they have destinations written on cards. Each car on their railroad has a card that they kind of look at and take around from destination to destination and have to flip over. So it's very manual. It's been done for they've been using car cards for decades. So I wanted to do something, as largely a practice app that would be somewhere in the middle, something online in the cloud and very approachable. So that's what this app is. And it started off just as a kind of a programming exercise. So over time, I moved it from just being pure Ruby to Rails, and then just kept adding features because I was kind of enjoying it. So like I never approached it, building it like, like it was going to last. But here it is, and now it's kind of big and sprawling. I'll give you a little demo. So let me ask to share my screen. Okay. Okay, you guys see my screen right now?
I don't see it yet.
I do. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. All right, and you, Jason?
I can't see it for some reason, but I guess go ahead.
Really? Okay.
Oh, now I can see it. Now I can see it.
Okay. All right. So you start by entering all your cars. Tankers and flat cars and coal cars and things like that. And the app is aware of where they all are. So all these are in the yard and they're loaded. And then these have been placed at various industries on my make-believe layout. These are all off the layout on in the greater world, on my railroad somewhere else. And a few are off spot. I'll explain that in a second. But you also model your industries. And so I've got 5 industries on this imaginary layout. In the real world, you'd have a layout with these real industries on them. Holman Transfer is kind of a clearinghouse where cars come in, and usually the goods are at a transfer facility like this. They're transferred to trucks. So you can define your resources that the industry either gets or ships out. In this case, Holman Transfer just receives, and it receives cement, cardboard, paper. You can see what cycle it gets. Cardboard arrives, for instance, in a box car, an all-purpose box car, comes every 1 to 2 days in 1 to 2 cars. And the cars are typically unloaded and ready for pickup every 1 to 2 days, with a 85% chance per day of being ready for pickup. So that's something that the user can set. And we're using Hotwire here for just doing kind of a dynamic interface. You can also define the areas of the industry. So this one has 2 areas. It has a warehouse and then just kind of tracks that you can place cars on. And at the warehouse, a warehouse literally has doors. Each door is called a spot in railroad lingo. And this one has 6 spots, and you can define what goods each spot is supposed to get. So spots 1 and 2 only get canned goods, and spot 3, same thing, but can also take perishables, paper, and so on. And you can add, I can say spot 2 should be able to take canned goods or cardboard, and now that's added there. And then there's a second area with that takes different things, cement, cardboard, and lumber, but these are on tracks. You can put the cars in any order on a track. You don't have to put it right in front of a specific loading door like you do with spots. But once you set that up, and you also set up your engines, you're ready to do what's called switching. And this is the bulk of the app. It's going to use its logic based on those cycles of the flow of cars that I was showing you on the industry, to decide what cars should go, what cars are kind of randomly decided have come into the yard and where they're supposed to go. And you, as the railroad operator, will literally take your train, pick up the cars, bring them to the industries, and do what's asked of you. So in this case, I have 2 railroad lines, by the way. This is my yard view. From my main yard, I've got 2 local lines, an A line and a B line, and they serve different industries. The A line serves inland oil, interstate plastics. B line does a few other industries. So now we're ready to, it's the beginning of a day, and we are ready to switch these cars with their industries. So this is my A line, and this is my B line, and let's go to the A line. And we're in the building phase now, which means we're at the yard, and this is the list of all the cars I need for today on this line. I need to get, first of all, my engine, so I can check that off the list. And now I need to pick up 2 fuel cars. And they're red because these are taking, fuel is considered a hazardous good. So they're red just to let me know that there's something dangerous in those cars. But I've picked them up now, so I'll check those off the list and check all these guys off. This guy's yellow because it's got a shiftable load. Lumber can shift, and this is all kind of based on realistic railroad operations and rules. And so now I'm just picking up all these cars and adding them to my train. You can see my train is 662 feet now. And there are safety violations because hazardous cars should not be right next to my engine. And I'm still developing this. I'm going to let you drag and drop these cars into a different order to satisfy the safety violations. Right now, I know when there's a violation. I just don't have a way to let the user deal with that.
Okay, we had a little bit of technical difficulty with Zoom and internet and all that stuff just now, so there's a jump in the editing, but we're going to dive into the code now and take a look and discuss some of what we see. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, So Helmet, thanks again for bravely sharing your code with us. I really appreciate that. I think what we're going to start with is some of the model code. So I have in tabs here some of the models that I thought looked potentially interesting for us to talk about.
Sure.
Yeah, one comment, I'm probably preaching to the choir at this point, but if there's code that's not needed anymore, I recommend rather than commenting it out, just deleting it. Because if I see stuff commented out, then I have to ask myself, what is this? Is it still needed? It creates just a tiny stumbling block. It's not a big deal, but it's just a little paper cut. It'd be better to live without. So that's my comment on this. And I think that's my only comment on this file. We'll kind of cycle through these and yeah, okay. So this one has some stuff that might be interesting for us to talk about. Helmut, I spent a little bit of time looking at this generate next turn number method, and I found where this is used. And I'm actually going to switch to my terminal and look at that in here. Okay, is this font size okay for everybody? You can read this fine?
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I want to have this file open, and also there was, yeah, here's where this is used. Okay, so Helmut, can you help me understand what generate next turn number is all about? I don't even know what a turn is, first of all.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's in the app, as I was showing, it's a day. So each day you get a new list of things to do. So day one, when you start using the app for the first time, you start at day one, and you go through the cycle of picking up cars at the yard, dropping them off, picking up the empties and bringing them back to the yard. Next, that's the end of the day. A new day begins.
I see. And is that like an industry term? Every day is called a turn or something like that?
Oh, no, it's just when I started the app, I should have called them days. But when I started the app, I just called it a turn. But it's every day, just like in a job, every day there's a new work list to do. And that's the model that the app uses as well.
I see. Okay. And do you think it would be realistic to rename turn to day now, or would that be too risky with the level of test coverage and stuff like that?
I don't know if it would be so risky, but I would love to do it. But it would just be work that, then I wouldn't be able to put the time into finishing up some other features, that would impact the end user and benefit them. So I've left it as it is for now.
I see. Okay. Okay. Well, obviously that's your call to make. I would invite you to consider that maybe even though it'll be expensive to change, maybe it'll be worth it in the long run. I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously that's for you to decide. Okay. Well, I will put in my mind that turn means day. Okay. So generate next turn number. Yeah. What is this turn number? That's just counting from the first day that you start using the app and it counts up.
That's right. Well, like the first, when you start using it, you're given a list of things to do. You do them. You're all done with the thing on your list. You hit, and it's like you click the finish the day button, and now it just increments to the next day and generates a new list of things to do.
I see. So it's not chronological. You could go through 3 days in one real day, for example.
Sure. Yes, it has nothing to do with the real time of day that you're playing the app. You could, and absolutely nothing to do with that. It's really just a turn. You start a new turn or day when you finish the last day's list of things to do.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, this might seem like pointless to dwell on this, but if this were like a real production app, I would consider this a valuable use of time.
Yeah.
Let's talk some more about the name of this class. because, we talked about it means a day, but like obviously I could see it being confusing if we just rename this class to literally day. Somebody might think it means like, an actual day on real world
Right,
time when
right.
it's actually
Yeah,
something different.
that never occurred to me that somebody would interpret it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Any ideas for something this could be prefixed with, like something day, or maybe something
Game
entirely different?
day or switch day. I mean, what they do is it's called switching.
Okay.
I don't know, game or switch day. That's what pops in my mind right now.
Okay. Well, I like game day because that just makes sense to me. That implies to me that it's a day in the game. So I'll mentally translate turn to game day in my head. Um, and I will call generate next turn number, generate next game day number. Um, Helmet, is there a database table associated? Obviously, there is for turn or game day or whatever. Um, but does each row in the turns table have a turn number associated with it?
I believe so. Let me just look at my schema.
Mhm.
It has it has a number.
Okay. And is that number scoped to the user?
The number is well, the model is scoped to the user. I mean, a user has many turns, but that's it.
Okay,
And the
let me
turn
ask.
had and
Uh-huh.
the turn, or the game day has an attribute number.
Um, Let me ask that a different way. If you and I were using this app, Helmet, and you went through 5 days and I went through 8 days, I assume your days would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my days would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 8. Rather than like it wouldn't be like 1, 2, and then I'd get 3, then you'd get
Oh,
4,
right.
that kind of thing.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Scope to the user. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Um, Well, I would be curious if you can use the database's auto incrementing system for this column instead of having to do it yourself. Um,
I
I
bet
don't
I
know if you
could.
can or not, but that would be something interesting to look into.
Right.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, now at least I understand what that is. Okay. And in the turns controller, turns are being created. Okay, so it must be you said something that maybe I didn't catch or understand fully. Um, how do I go from one turn to the next? Do I click something that says like I'm done with today's work list or something like that?
Yes. During the demo, we started off with me grabbing all my engine and the cars. When at the bottom of that list, it would say, something like, move on to the next phase. The next phase would be switching, where I actually drop the cars off at their industries and pick up empty cars ready to go back. And
Mhm.
then the final phase would be return to the yard and put everything where they should be in the yard. And once I finish that phase, there's a button at the bottom that says, finish switching this line. And then I could do it for the other railroad line that I showed you. There was an A and B. And when I'm done with both lines, there's a new button that appears that says finish the day.
Okay. Okay, got it. And that of course triggers this.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Beforehand, you get a little overview about where everything is at the end of the day, in all the industries, showing what cars are at what industries. But yes, that is essentially how you get out of one day and start the next.
Okay. Okay. It might take me a little bit to articulate it, but there's something I'm instinctually not completely satisfied with here. So
Sure.
let's go a little deeper and pinpoint what that is. So I see here on line 16, we're instantiating a turn and we're saying its number is this turn number that we've just generated. I think one thing that I would do differently is, so generate next turn number is, sorry, I've lost control of my Vim session here. We'll figure that out in a second. But generate next turn number is an imperative style method, where, and if anybody is not familiar with imperative versus declarative, imperative is kind of a step-by-step, do this, then do this, then do this, whereas declarative is saying, I want this state, give me this state. And it's a subjective preference, but I personally prefer declarative. So whenever I need to write something, I try to think, how can I write this in a declarative way? And let me see if I can just, there we go. I think I fixed my Vim problem. I might just call this next turn number. And let me go over here.
Simpler.
Okay, current user.turns.last.number. Oh, interesting. Okay, so we're grabbing the most recent turn for the current user. Okay.
So that way it just adds one to it.
Okay. But doesn't a turn know its own user? Isn't it possible for a turn to know its own user?
Well, it does. I mean, there's a user ID on it. So, you know, turn.user.
Okay, so I wonder if we could do this. We'll say user, current user. Okay, Chris has an interesting idea. Current user.turns.build next turn. I reserve judgment on whether I like that or not. I'm going to keep with my current path here for a second. Yeah, and then, okay, number. You know, let me do this even. Let's not do anything with the turn number here. And let's say after initialize, I don't remember the exact syntax. Maybe it's something like that. I could say number equals last turn number plus one. But how do we know the last turn number? User dot turns dot last dot number.
That would do
maybe
it.
we can even just do this. And then we, of course, wouldn't need this. But then obviously it may be the case that there is no last turn because this is the first one.
Right.
Okay, so we could say if user dot turns dot empty number equals 1, else do that. And I don't know if I want to say that that's my final answer, but you kind of get the idea.
Yeah, I'm just curious. What about like when a user is created? I just create a turn for them, you know, as a callback automatically.
Oh, are you saying that it's currently the case that when a user is created, you create a turn for them automatically?
I don't think I do, but I'm just wondering, like, if I did that, that would solve, you know, the possibility of it being empty. Is that right? You know,
Oh,
because it would be turn 0 or I would probably set it to turn 1.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would work. Um, it's not clear to me which of the two ways would be the better way to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the way you described would work. Okay, and then obviously we wouldn't need that line either. So, I would be surprised if I made all those changes without making some kind of oversight or mistake.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that that's a little bit simpler.
Clearer. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so there's one thing. Mhm. Anytime I see like dot first and dot last, it gives me a little bit of pause because it's like it's not you're not like getting a tight grip on a specific thing. It's like it could be this, it could be that, maybe.
Yeah.
One thing I'd be inclined to do is like turns dot order. Oh, you know what I could do? Well, okay. Let me say this. Anytime I have a dot last or dot first, I would want to be sure that I'm sure about the order that's happening. So I think I would explicitly put an order here, or you could do something like um, max number or something like that, if you know what I mean. I don't remember the exact syntax, but it's like terms dot max number plus 1, something like that, just to make it so it's deterministic and you can always be sure that the instance you think you're getting is the
Is
instance
what I'm
you're actually
getting.
getting. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So that's all my comments on that stuff. Let's open up turn again and look at car and engine tasks. Okay. And a lot of this stuff I'm looking at fresh for the first time right now.
Yeah.
So let me try to understand this.
Me too.
Okay. Tasks dot each. Oh, okay. I see that a turn has many tasks. Okay. And we're adding each task to combined tasks. Okay. And then for each engine task, oh, it has many engine tasks, or at least it did at one point in time.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we can leave that for a different time. For each engine task, we add, oh, okay. So we're adding all the combined, no. We're adding all the tasks and all the engine tasks to combined tasks.
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay. And now my question is, where is this used? Oh, okay. It's used somewhere else in turn, and that's all. Oh, okay. Incomplete tasks. If there are any car and engine tasks, then wait, where is? Oh, okay. I never knew that you could pass a block to any. So this means if there are any car and engine tasks where it's true that completed is false, then incomplete tasks is true, otherwise it's false. Okay. Um, and now I want to see where this is used. Okay. Let's pretend this is not commented out. Oh,
Okay.
and Chris is asking, why do you need the true false there?
Oh, right.
Suppose it's
Because
probably not
any,
needed, right?
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So if all trains canceled or completed, then, oh, I see. We have oh, this must have been different at some point at some point in time, right? Because we have like a mismatch now. maybe at some point in the past, it was something like this.
I'm sorry, what is the change you just made?
So originally it was like this with this unless commented out.
Right.
Oh, I bet I know what it was. It seems more likely that it was like this. Might it have been something like that?
Unless I have incompleted tasks, make a new day available. Yes. I think initially I required the user to complete all their tasks
Mhm.
and then realized, you know what, they may be, they may not want to deliver, to this industry, this time that they're playing, and they just want to leave those cars that they're supposed to deliver at the yard for some other day. So I started allowing people to not do their tasks, but move on to the next day, to a new day.
I see. Well, I think that means we can do every developer's favorite thing, which is if the only place that was used is there and it's not used there anymore, then we
Right.
can delete that. And if the only place this was used, oh, is that true or not? I'm confused. Okay, Karn engine tasks. Turn line 28. Oh, I think the cache is just outdated for my search mechanism. So it was finding something that's actually
Finding
no longer
that.
there. Yeah.
Got it.
Anyway, we can kill this because it's no longer called by anything. Okay. All trains canceled or completed. Yeah, and that is on line 1 right there. Okay. So let me see. All trains canceled or completed. Turns finished trains dot select where the status is completed or the status is canceled. Oh, I see. Okay.
So every day, those two lines are generated, the A line and the B line, however many train lines you've created. Every day they're generated, but if like the B line, there are no cars to pick up or deliver, it's canceled. That should not hold the person back from advancing to the next day. That's why it looks to see if a line has been completed or canceled.
Okay. And can you give me an example of another status the train could have? Because, okay, if all your trains are completed or canceled, then you're good to go. You can move on to the next day. But what
That's
was the
right.
status the train might be in that would block you from doing that?
You could not move on to the next day if you're switching one line and all you've done is gotten to the switching phase of that line where you're literally supposed to be dropping off trains. Dropping off cars at their industries, and you haven't come back to the yard. You cannot advance to the next day. You have to have gone through the cycle of pick up the cars in the yard, drop them off at the industries, and bring empties back to the yard. You have to complete that cycle per train line before you can advance to the next day.
Okay. Now I'm going to come back to here. I often like to move from the top down when I'm thinking about what kind of wording and what kind of names make the most sense. So this is the condition we're checking that tells us if we can go to a new day. And just for a second, I'm going to call this game day just to make it easier to think about.
For you, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm even going to do this just to make it match. Okay. All right. So if all trains canceled or completed, that means we're free to make a new game day. What does that mean about the current game day? That means it's like, it's not exactly that it's concluded. I'm trying to think of like what's the broader meaning? Can you kind of sense what I'm getting after, Helmut?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a more like an easier to grok way to summarize, that state of being.
Yeah, because like the fact that all trains are canceled or completed.
That's a little bit of an obstacle course mentally for somebody new.
Well, the point I was going to make is that that's, unless I'm mistaken, that's kind of an incidental detail. That's not the essential point of the matter. And so I'm trying to think of what is the essential point.
All essential work is done. That's wordy.
No blockers. I don't like that. Can move to next day. Oh, can advance, Chris says.
Yeah, I mean, that's clear.
Okay.
That
Nothing.
hides the details of what advancing means, which then you can always investigate by going into can advance.
We haven't hit on anything yet that I feel like is certainly the right answer. And these things, I think some people might think it's like silly to spend so much time on such a thing, but like as we kind of talked about a minute ago, like turn became a misnomer, and it would be really expensive to change that to something else. And so I'd rather spend a few $100 worth of people's time rather than having to spend $10,000 of somebody's time down the road.
Yeah.
Chris says, rather than hide the detail, I think let's let turn decide when the user can start a new turn. Well, I think that's kind of what's happening. This method is on the turn class.
I was just clarifying because Helmut said it was hiding the detail, but I think hiding the detail is what happens. But the reason you do it is to let turn be what the decision point is about, can this happen? Right? Like that's sending the message. So turn decides, oh yes, this is valid now. How turn decides that is it checks trains completed right now, but that may change for some reason in the future, right? But turn still decides, yes, you can make a new turn or start your next turn.
I think I agree. All right, I'm going to try to unblock us. Let's forget about computers for a second. And Helmut, let's pretend we're playing this game. We're going through the motions of, whatever we do. And then all of our trains are either in a completed or canceled state. And we say, okay, we like look at each other and we say, okay, I think we've done everything we want to do for today. Let's move on to the next day. But I don't know if that's what we'd actually say. Can you walk me through that, Helmut? Like, what do you think we would say to each other or think about at that point when we're finishing up one game day?
Is it quitting time? Everything done?
Well, no, like let's go even more specific. Like, what actual specific actions would you be carrying out near the end? And like, what would prompt you to take that next action of deciding you're done?
Right. All cars returned to the yard. Cars and engines back in the yard.
Okay. And why does that prompt you to think about ending the day?
What else is there to do? I mean, the next group of cars to deliver come in when we're sleeping. Another crew takes care of that. Our job is to, once new cars come into the yard, it's to distribute them. The distribution's done, and the engines are back ready for maintenance.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm just
No, this is exactly what I was after.
Okay.
You said all the cars are back to the yard. what's the, okay, I apologize for asking
Yeah,
a
no
question
problem.
you maybe already answered, but what does that mean? What's the significance of all the cars being back to the yard?
Well, we're bringing new cars to the industries that need them, but from days past, there are already cars there that have been emptied now. Or if that industry generates materials that get shipped out, then there are cars that are ready for pickup, to be delivered somewhere else. So you drop off cars and you pick up cars and you bring everything back to the yard to start the cycle again the next day.
Okay. And you said something which struck me as significant, which you said there's nothing more to do. Does that imply that the game day is complete? Or might it be that there's still technically some loose ends, but the user can advance past that day anyway?
It implies that the day's complete. There's nothing else for them to do. The only caveat I'd say is that there may have been cars on their list to deliver or pick up that they just decided to push to the future because they just didn't want to do it. And those will simply be on the next day's list.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first name idea that comes to my mind is something like all necessary actions complete ? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that an enthusiastic yeah, or does that seem like not quite the thing?
I'd have to think more deeply than I think our time allows. But that's certainly in the ballpark.
Okay.
Right. It's very straightforward. It's all necessary actions. Yeah. And then I could explore that method, in the code to see really what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And I want to mention another principle that we're following here. I want to talk about levels of abstraction. So what was it was called before? It was called all trains canceled or completed. Okay. And I'm going to change this back to all trains canceled or completed. Okay. So this is a relatively lower level of abstraction than the rest of the stuff this template deals with, or what this template ideally deals with. And then all necessary actions complete is a higher level of abstraction. And I think that when you have a template or a class or something and everything in it is at roughly the same level of abstraction, then it's easier to understand when there are mixed levels of abstraction. So that was another motivation for that. Okay. And by the way, Helmet, we're nearing the end of our normal 1 hour slot or whatever.
Yeah.
But how much more time do you have?
I've got time. I've certainly got time. Yeah.
Okay. Let me know if you get tired of this or you have to go or something like that. And anybody else, stay as long as you want or as long as you can or whatever. But Helmet, I'm fine to keep going for a while.
Okay. All right. Well, so am I. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's look at this. Turns finished trains equals trains.select. Okay. So is there a significance, Helmet, to a train being either completed or canceled? Does that mean the train is back in the yard?
Well, if it's canceled at the beginning of the day. So there's nothing to do since there were no cars to deliver or pick up that had become empty or loaded for pickup. No engine, there's no reason to go out, so no engine was assigned. It's just canceled. But there still exists a train for that day. It seemed like the wise thing to do to always consistently make a train for each day that for each line that exists coming out of that yard, and then I can cancel it or fill it with tasks.
Okay. Okay. So if it's completed or canceled, that means there's nothing more to do with that train. And if there's any other status, that means that there is something more to do with that train that day. Is that a true statement?
Yes, I mean uh, uh, what there is to do is take it out and bring it back. Now, you don't have to actually drop off anything or pick up anything, but you do have to go through the phases of building the train at the yard, going out, to switch cars at industries and come back to the yard and drop drop the trains off. I mean, technically, when you get back to the yard, you have to place every car that's on that train back on a track in that yard.
Okay. Sorry, I was asking my question poorly, I think.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Here's what I think I'm after. I think I'm trying to figure out, is there a single meaning that completed and canceled go together to make up? Like, do those things together comprise a single meaning, or do completed and canceled have two just completely distinct separate meanings?
I mean, if they had a singular meaning, it would be completed, or nothing left to do. I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all requirements are satisfied. I mean, we kind of already did that.
Oh, hang on a second. Could it be that for each train, we ask the question, are all necessary actions complete for that train? And then we ask the broader question of, are all necessary actions complete for all trains?
For all trains gets you to a new day.
Yeah, so like we could say something like this maybe. And Chris, I don't get your milkshake joke. That must be a reference that I am not familiar with. Okay, all necessary actions complete. Oh, I see. All right. Brings all the boys to the yard. All necessary actions complete for all trains. And then we could say trains dot map necessary, all necessary actions complete dot all true. I don't know if I have that syntax right, but that's the idea.
So each train has a method. Is that right?
Yeah.
And I'm checking to see if they all return true.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
So obviously this code isn't real. So let's make it real. Okay. All there, and I think that does it. Okay. Yeah, I think that does it.
Yeah, that's clearer, which is the idea.
Yeah. Okay. And that addresses the entire turn class. So I guess we can move to the next thing.
Okay.
Okay. Ooh, this is a big one.
Oh God, is that user? Yeah, that's user.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that needs to be that's the world that gets set up when
Mhm.
somebody joins. I give them a bunch of sample data, and that clearly has to be in another class. I would have put it in a service object, but I just didn't get around to that. So yeah,
All right, I'll skip
I
over
know
this one
that's
for now.
glaring.
I'll skip over that because I don't know. It sounds like you kind of know what you need to do for that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is yard. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at this. Okay. Create default yard. And my first question is, where does that happen? Okay, it seems that user also has a create default yard. What's this? Okay. And this happens in delete layout. Okay.
So
Okay.
you can wipe the old layout and start a new yeah, but you need a yard like to play the game. A yard has to exist. So I always create one.
Um, sorry, I got distracted. I saw Chris's comment. Um, you said you don't need the map. What do you mean by that, Chris?
You can
Oh,
just pass that to all. There you go.
yeah, even better. Okay.
Ooh. Huh.
Wow.
You might still need the ampersand on there though. I think
Oh, okay.
it's like passing the block, right?
Yeah, yeah, good point. Okay.
That's smooth.
Let's see. And Helmet, maybe I don't know if it's possible for me to like create a new branch and push it or something like that. But anyway, I'll keep these changes around just in case. Okay. So I have a question for you, Helmet. What is a layout?
Layout is the whole world. That I showed you: the yard, the industries, the cars on it, the
Okay.
engines. So everything on the model railroaders layout in their world.
Okay. And what would lead a person to delete a layout?
Well, particularly when they first log in, I give them like a sample layout. That's what I
Mhm.
was using to show you guys. So when you're done kind of just learning how the app works, you want to start with your own stuff. So you can easily just wipe all that clean, and then you're just given a yard and named local yard, and you can add your own cars, engines, industries, and so on.
I see. Okay. And is there not a database table called layouts?
There is not.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. I could be totally wrong, but I wonder if that's something that could make sense because it seems potentially convenient just to be able to say layout dot
Layout
delete.
new, right? And yeah, you're right.
Because my fear with this would be that I would miss something. And if I could do layout dot delete and it just cascades and deletes everything the layout has, that seems like a more certain way to get everything.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay, well anyway, um I understand lines 5 through 9 now. Oh, I see. And now we're creating a new turn. Yard dot create default yard. Okay. Okay, so I would guess, Helmet, that when I create a fresh layout, even though it's basically empty, I'm this like most empty version of a yard that I'm gonna want is like this default yard.
Yeah, I think it has one track. It
Okay.
maybe actually it has more than that, 4 tracks, but yes, it's straightforward. And it's got 1 yard line.
Okay. I see. All right. I'm thinking. Okay, so we create an actual yard record and we just kind of give it an arbitrary name because it has to have a name.
That's right.
Okay. And we're creating 4. Do I understand right that we're creating 4 tracks?
Yes.
Okay. Arrival, departure, engine maintenance, and classification. Okay.
There could just be 1, but I give 4 so they realize that there can be different classifications to different yard tracks. They can have different designations. So seeing it clearly on their screen enforces that.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we could do maybe something like oh, we can't do the thing I was trying to do because one of them has 2 words. Not a big deal though. Okay. Arrival, departure, engine maintenance, and classification. Okay, that each. I don't know if you know about each with index helmet.
I do, yeah.
Okay. Oh wait, that's not the way it goes. Okay, name I. Oh, and I need the do. Oh, okay.
It starts at 0. Does the index starts with 0 though?
Okay, so I want to do that.
Yeah, for the first one, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think we can do that. Okay, and then we create a line.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I would do differently. This is simple enough and easy enough to understand that
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're good. And I have a suspicion that over time the yard class might grow. And if the yard class were to get big, I would seek a different place to put this create default yard method. I might put it in a factory or something like that. But since it's the only thing in here right now, we're not at risk of getting confused or anything. So I would be totally fine with leaving it here. Okay. Well, I don't think I have any more comments on that. Yeah, this one could be interesting. Yard line.
So industries belong to a yard line. Like the A line serves the bakery and the plastics factory, and the B line serves the coal, plant and the brewery.
Okay.
Or the lumber yard.
Okay. And just for timing expectations for everybody, I think I have maybe 10 or 15 more minutes in me. Okay. So I'm going to try to understand this. Industries that aren't deleted. Okay. I'm going to do one of these. Whoops. Okay. Industries that aren't deleted, sorted by position. And we add that industry to places. Oh, okay. And then interchanges sorted by position, we add the interchange to the places.
Yeah. So an interchange it's not an industry, but it's a destination. It doesn't behave just like an industry, but it's a destination on a line. And I added that concept months after starting the app, and so I had to come up with this umbrella concept of places. So that explains that.
Okay. Okay. Could we not do?
Could have called them destinations.
Oh,
too.
okay. Could we not do industries that not deleted plus interchanges that sort by position? Like that?
Wow.
Because you had been sorting them individually and then you sorted all of them. But I think if you sort them all, you don't need to sort them individually first.
Right. Yeah, because they should have. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
Okay. Can anybody spot anything wrong with what I just did? Okay. It almost seems too good to be true. You don't need the brackets.
Plus,
Oh
there's a
yeah.
array.concat there.
Not only do I not need them, I think
Yeah.
I don't want them. Yeah, parentheses instead, right? Yeah. Okay. And I'm behind a little bit on the chat. Oh, Ben said, I think you can escape a space. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that. Sorry, somebody was about to say something.
I was going to ask if your positions overlap, like industry is at position 1 and interchange is at position 1. So
they
would,
shouldn't. They
Okay.
shouldn't because they're all part of the same yard line.
how do you keep them from? How do you keep industry from having the same position as interchange?
Well, by conceptually calling them places and creating the positions, for them as in a place array.
Okay, so that's all for that one. Okay, yeah, let's take a quick look at maybe one or two more classes, and then maybe we can call it a night.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, maybe these two right here. All right, so this is interchange. Okay. So areas is interchange areas. Okay. Yeah, can you help me understand this one, Helmet? And I apologize, but I now don't remember what an interchange is.
Sure. I don't think we actually talked about it. So an interchange is somewhere where two railroads come together and exchange things, exchange cars. So Ford Motor Company may ship out a bunch of cars, and they're served at the plant by BNSF. But some of these cars are going to destinations served by Union Pacific. So at some point, BNSF comes and drops off cars at an interchange for Union Pacific to pick up and take to their final destinations. That's what an interchange is. It's a destination on the yard line, just like an industry is, but it's cars that go there. It's kind of like the combination of an industry and a yard. It's a place where cars are dropped off to go to a final destination somewhere else off your layout,
Okay.
but somewhere else.
Okay. And I want to open up. It seems like there is an interchange area class. Okay.
Yeah, just like an industry has an area. If you remember when I showed you home and transfer, they had the warehouse area, and then they had the tracks, what are called team tracks, where you can just put the cars anywhere on the track.
Okay.
An interchange has a different areas one area may be for, I believe, if I remember this, for different railroads.
Okay.
So an interchange can serve multiple railroads, and each one has its own area.
Okay. And so an interchange has this dot areas method. What's the meaning of that?
Oh, it just shows us, all the areas for that interchange. So I'll see area for Union Pacific, area for BNSF, area for Norfolk Southern.
Okay. And I apologize for how rudimentary my questions are, but what's
You
an
know,
area?
An area is a collection of spots or tracks. So like if you have a small industry, it just has one area. But if you have a really big industry with multiple warehouse buildings, I would probably let's say multiple warehouses. Each warehouse has its own set of spots: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next warehouse, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You need a way of designating that scope. So warehouse 1 would be an area with 5 spots. Warehouse 2 would be an area with another 7 spots and a few tracks. So it's just a grouping of spots and tracks into a distinct kind of unit within the overall interchange or industry.
Okay. Okay. What I'm trying to figure out is I'm thrown by the fact that there's this method called areas, and the entire body of it is interchange areas. And to me, it's like, okay, that means that areas and interchange areas are the same idea, yet they're called two different things. So I'm trying to reconcile those two things.
Yeah, it's a good point. And there must have been some reason why I did not want to just give. Oh, it's probably because I didn't know how to polymorphically at that point include areas in 2 different models, in an industry and an interchange. So I created 2 separate models that kind of do the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I mean?
I can't say that I completely understand, but that's probably more than I can bite off right now. So
Okay.
I think I'll just I think I'll just leave that one alone for now.
All right.
Okay, I'm gonna look at these couple ones. Railroads. Okay, so we're making an empty array, and then interchange areas that first, interchange tracks. So we're adding. Okay, so we're taking all of the tracks, railroads, and that's what this is. Okay.
Yeah, this could definitely be clearer or somewhere else.
Well, I got great news for you. Lat map. I don't like that. I could maybe need some help. Chris, do you know what I'm trying to do here?
Yeah, you're gonna like extract that railroad, right? I think you could do track dot railroad. So track there.
Oh, I got
slot
thrown because of
argument.
this. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, so this is an important thing, Helmet. Here we have interchange tracks, but then it's just track. I always make
Use
it
the same
match
name.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Interchange track dot railroad.
So this gives me a list of all the railroads that are served by this interchange.
Yeah.
Ooh. One line.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And some of these things are just like maybe you happen not to know about flat map, for example. and this is just
Yeah.
like a nice little Ruby trick that makes your code more concise. I like it more in these code reviews when we talk about the deeper meanings of things and stuff like that, rather than just like these code tricks, although the
Right.
code tricks are handy too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move on from that one, and we'll do one more real quick, and then we'll call it a night.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is railroad foreign? What does that mean?
Uh, okay. Foreign home. Oh, you have all your things on your layout have their own railroad, and there's some place where you can name your railroad. In the demo I showed you at the beginning, mine was called Acme. But if you remember, there were a few cars that were on the UP railroad. So a foreign railroad is not your railroad. It's not the railroad that you are kind of working on your layout. It's another any other layout. In the demo's case, it could be Union Pacific and BNSF, but mine was Acme.
Okay. And where is this used? I guess we can do railroad.foreign. Nope.
It's a STI kind of thing.
Oh, so it's not like literally called anywhere, it's used by something else?
Well, I mean, it's got a model. I'm sorry, is that what you're asking?
I was just looking for where railroad.foreign was called, and I wasn't finding it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Why would that be?
I don't know. Okay, well, that's an unsatisfying ending, so I'm not going to end on that one. I'm going to grab a different one.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Let's take a look at cargo option. Okay. Options for car type. This is interesting.
Okay, cargo option. That I can probably answer. All right.
Okay. I'm going to look at this line by line. Cargo options for chosen car type. And then there's some kind of string manipulation type stuff happening there. General purpose cargo option. Okay, here's what confuses me, Helmet. I see these instance variables, but I don't see like where. It's surprising to me to see instance variables here.
Right. In a model.
Well, it's not
What?
necessarily unusual to see instance variables in models, but it's like, where does this instance variable actually get used? Because, like, for example, that could just be a local variable.
Yeah, you know how it's used. Okay, so let's say you have a box car. It can take certain types of cargo. It can't take fuel and liquid, right? So it takes it can take big goods. It can take refrigerated goods. Both of those are cargo options. A tanker cannot take those kinds of goods. It can take fuel or liquid. So liquid is a cargo option.
Okay.
So this it helps when you create a car. I show you a list of the cargo options that you can assign to that car. A box car could be refrigerated, could be general purpose, could be big, bulky, like tall goods that need a tall box car, and so on. So each kind of car type has a designation of the kind of cargo they can take. And that appears on a list when you create the car, so you can designate it as a general purpose box car or a refrigerated box car or something like that.
Okay.
So that's probably why this is an instance variable, so it can show up on a list. That's my guess.
Okay, yeah, Ben brings up a good point. He said instance varies on a class method question mark. Yeah, because if this is a class method, I don't see how those instance variables could come out anywhere.
Um, uh, just on a select, calling cargo option dot, with the, cargo option dot options for car type.
Hmm. Well, I bet you $5, Helmet, that if
Yeah.
you went to your code and you went like that, I bet it would still work.
I bet, I bet you're right.
Um, okay. Well, okay, let's see. This string thing here, I'm just making a mental note of that. General purpose cargo option equals general option dot last. Let's see what that is. Oh, okay. What's the significance of the last general option?
That's a good question. General purpose. I mean, general purpose is a. I mean, maybe it was because I just have one in there, so I knew that general option dot last would be. There's only one general option, and it applies to all of the cars. So it was just a way of selecting it. In my mind, there'd be only one, so just last I could have used first as well.
Oh, okay. I still don't understand. Why did you need to grab one, but it could just be like any old one?
Because there are general options, there are fuel options, I believe. There are flat car options, and then I believe you can assign a general to a car, and that means it can take anything.
I see.
Yeah, and so I plug that in on I plug that one on the array that's built at the end of, if it's a box car, it gets the refrigerated, the tall and bulky goods and general. And if it's fuel, it gets hazardous and water based and general. And so there's only one general option, but there is a boxcar option that's got like 3 options in it, and a tanker option that's got 2 or 3 options in it. But there's just one general option.
Okay.
That's my memory.
Chris has maybe a couple interesting questions, comments. Why does cargo option decide how to find the options for a given car type instead of the car type deciding for itself? Does that question make sense to you, Helmet? I don't understand it, at least not yet.
So, do you mean, Chris, why is this not part of like a car model?
Yeah, I mean, I think cargo option is making some assumptions about how car type is titled and how classes are named, right? Like it's assuming that there's going to be certain class names, which is fine, but why does cargo option assume that instead of car type? Because if your car type assumes that, then you're not necessarily tied to it being, right? Like some car options or some options may be derived from the title, some might be derived from some other attribute, or right, like
I guess
it's the responsibility, right? Like it's the letting the objects speak for themselves instead of poking into them.
Yeah. And the alternative would be having this part of a car class, so that when I choose a car type, which is just an attribute on cars, I had, wished that when I started, I would have actually had, an overall car class and then subclasses for each type. But it would simply be some kind of method that looked at my attribute and then knew what the cargo options should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be simpler to understand.
Okay, yeah. Good point, Chris. I like that. One more comment, and I think this will be my final comment of the code review session. I see when I search for instances of options for car type, I find quite a few across a lot of different controllers. And this is something that I didn't know what to do about for a long time. Because, like, what can you do? You can, like, maybe put it in the before action, or like have controllers like inherit or mix things in. But for certain reasons, I find that to be not great. The solution I arrived at that I do like is to put this in a view component.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've used, have you used view components before, Helmet?
Yes, and there are a bunch in there, but not for this purpose.
Okay. Yeah, I'd invite you to consider that for that one and maybe give that a try.
I'd love that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, thanks again, Helmet. I really appreciate you airing your dirty laundry in front of the world.
And I appreciate the time and the attention. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes tonight's session. And this is the last one for the next few weeks. I'm going to be traveling, so I will see you guys in a while. But thanks for coming, and I'll see you later.
Thank you. Thank you. This was awesome.
Take care, guys.